Welcome back to part 2 on the Westwood D1200 engine. This is the vertical shaft diesel twin, and since the previous video there has been quite a development. I just want to thank everybody to begin with for all of your fantastic suggestions. It really has helped a great deal because this type of engine is not common on a ride-on mower. These are usually fitted to applications like generators, so having one of these with a vertical shaft is rare. So it is a dry sump system, meaning the oil does not stay at the bottom of the sump here. It should all return to the tank on the back. It has a separate oil tank for the storage of the oil. Now obviously when I pulled off the lower cylinder in the previous video, you saw all of the oil gushing out of here, which is not right. It should not do that. The oil level should be low. It should be returned to the tank for storage. What we had was a sump, a dry sump, which was sort of filled with oil to about here, which is no good at all. So it was suggested by many that it could well be a faulty oil check valve, and that prevents the oil from leaking back from the tank into the crankcase when the engine is running. This to me is a highly likely cause, and it means that what I did before, checking all the clearances, was fine, but a bit of a waste of time. Well, I say that, but actually something good did come out of it. Hopefully many of you found it interesting. It's a bit of a learning curve for me because I'm used to the Briggs & Stratton engines, and doing these diesels is a new thing, but it's something I really want to get into. So yeah, I filled these with diesel, the intake and the exhaust on the cylinder heads, and we were going to check the levels. Now these have been standing for 2 days, and you can see this is the top cylinder head. I would say next to nothing has leaked, maybe the slightest bit. The other one though, the bottom one, which was filled with oil, the exhaust port there is empty. It's all leaked out. The intake is fine, and it's all leaked out of the valve seat. Nothing has come out of the valve stem seal, so that's good, but it does mean that ideally we should do a bit of valve work to it. It is just the one though. The intake seems absolutely fine.
Yeah, you can see it's very wet, but I think the majority of it must have leaked out fairly quickly at some point overnight, because you can see it's all accumulated in a puddle here. So I'm going to have to take that valve out and lap it, and then we can hopefully get a good seal.
As for the cylinder and piston, yeah, this was a waste of time. It's the only thing that was a waste of time, because I did the measurements and the piston rings were fine. The cylinder is fine, no wear at all. And you can even still see the original cross hatching in the cylinder bore. But it does give me an opportunity to clean things up, and it will get a nice set of new rings, even though it wasn't required. I'll probably lightly hone the cylinder. And yeah, I want to make this engine perfect because this is going to be a fantastic engine to use. The fuel consumption is just phenomenal. It just barely uses anything. It's so economical. Right, so I'm going to crack on. I haven't got the piston rings yet, so there's only so much I can do at the moment, but yeah, it should be a fairly seamless transition when they do arrive. And I'm going to fill the tank on the back up again to see if I can make it overflow at the front. If it does overflow, then it must be a faulty check valve or a dirty check valve, because there's no other way of the oil getting back into the crankcase from the tank on the back other than through that valve, as far as I'm aware. It can't come back through the pump once it's in the tank. Some people said, why didn't you check the oil level before you started work on it? And I've just forgot to put that clip in the video. It was halfway between low and high, so it appeared to be fine, but it probably was on high, and then it leaked half of that tolerance into the crankcase. This is new oil. It's very dark. It was very cheap. I'm definitely not going to keep this stuff in. I have some really good quality oil for when I eventually do the proper oil change. Okay, so it's halfway up to the safe mark again, and it does have a sticker on the back which says check the tank oil level when hot and only after letting the engine idle for at least 1 minute. So yeah, I think we'll keep it at halfway. Right, so you can see it's not dribbling over the top there. It's not overflowing. So if we start to see oil coming over that rim, it will be very interesting. I'm just in the process of removing the exhaust valve. These are the valve retainers, the collars, and now for the valve spring. It is quite tight. I'm going to keep that as one piece. I will clean it up, and you can see just in there we've also got the valve stem seal, which was my initial guess as to what was wrong with this engine. There's a closer view. I'm not too sure if that helps at all, but it just stops the oil from leaking out. Well, there it is. It doesn't really look too bad. Looks like there might have just been a few carbon deposits preventing it from closing fully. Yeah, I think I just need to lap it in, it should be fine. As for the injector, you can see the nozzle just here. Absolutely caked up with soot, which has gone really hard and crusty. So I think for this video, I'm going to remove the injector. I'm going to test it to see what pressure it opens at, and also we'll take a look at the spray pattern as well. That'd be quite interesting to see. It's not crucial though, I don't think it really needs to be done. It's just going to make this video a bit more interesting. I'd love to see it as well. This is our head gasket, which I will replace. These are the valve lapping tools. You can get some very cheap ones for about £1.50. They work for a certain amount of time. And yeah, I'm going to use this fine grade lapping paste. So I've applied the valve paste. I'm going to lower it into there. It's very important not to get any of the valve paste on the valve stem. And then the suction tool would grip onto that, lifting up every now and then, and eventually it will go quiet. Right, let's take a look at that. It's looking much better. And then there is the seat itself. Which likewise is looking better than it was. I'm now going to remove the injector. There's a nut on here and a collar underneath it, and then the clamp. For anybody interested in the injector puller I'm about to use, it is the Laser 4044 with the M8, M12 and M14 adapters. It's quite a small injector puller. So that just screws onto there. It's got a slide hammer. And there we have the injector. It will be quite tricky to see down the hole. I don't know what you can see on camera, but it's fairly dirty in there. So you can see how much more carbon there is on this side here. Good crusty layer. And there's also all this debris here. So it just needs a good clean up, and that is the sealing washer, which will have to be replaced. But I have bought the full gasket kit and you just get everything. I do find that's a good way of buying gaskets, you just get the kit. It is more expensive initially. You get a lot more for your money though. So I'm just going to clean this up and then I'm going to test it. I've just set everything up on the injector tester. One thing which I really should say, without sounding patronising, is never put your hand anywhere near the injector when testing it. The pressure that the fluid comes out of here at is enough to cut through your skin and inject it into your hand. So yeah, crucial that you don't put your hand anywhere near it. I've got the fluid in the back reservoir there. So all I have to do is pressure it up and we should see the reading on the gauge. There is a pintle type injector and a hole type injector. This one is going to spray in 4 different directions, and actually you can see the evidence of this on the piston, and you can actually see that there are some areas which are so stained that I just can't get them clean, and that is where the injector has been spraying. I can now start building pressure. We're going to be looking to see what PSI the injector opens at, and also prior to it opening, looking for any kind of dripping. We don't want it to drip at all, just wants to be a nice clean, open and then shut. So I'm going to put a mask on. I don't want to breathe in the vapour from this. Well, that was quite a good result. You could see it was spraying evenly in 4 different directions. I don't know how well you can see the actual holes in the nozzle. They're very small. But I'm very happy with it. It didn't dribble. We had a good spray pattern and it built up good pressure before it opened. I'm now going to start cleaning everything up. This will be a bit tricky to remove, all this burnt oil on the outside of the head, but it doesn't really matter if there is a stain. The most important thing is that I remove all the carbon from in here. You can see that I've already been working on the top cylinder head, and that's come out quite nicely. This one should be easier though, because as you know I've already removed the injector, which will allow me to clean around here better, and one valve is out. And once this is done, I'm going to put the new valve stem seal in. Within the gasket kit I've got all these seals. You can see we've got some valve stem seals here. These copper washers are for the injectors, and other O-rings for various different places. The red ones are for the push rods. The valve is cleaned up really nicely, and I have checked to see if it's bent, and it's absolutely fine, because that can be a reason for it not sealing properly. So I'm going to refit that. As you can see, I've fitted the valve stem seal. So I just need to fit these two retainers. That is the valve fitted, and the injector. Again, not the easiest thing to be showing on camera, but that is this cylinder head finished for now. Now for the pistons, as you can see I've already cleaned one of them up, which you saw earlier. That's the bottom piston. Top one, just the same, normal amount of carbon. So I'll get that all cleaned up, get the piston rings removed, and I've got some new ones now. They have finally turned up. Actually, I say finally, it was pretty good service really. From Greece, it took about 5 working days, about a week in total. It was, yeah, not bad. It's just when you're waiting for something, it just feels like it's taking a while. Right, so get that cleaned up, and we'll get the new piston rings fitted. The two pistons are cleaned up quite nicely. There's a bit of carbon left on the top. The sides are pretty good. So now I'm going to fit the new rings. They are already in 2 sets, and they're also facing the correct way. It's probably quite tricky to see, but it does say top on the ring. That's the piston rings done. When it's time to put the cylinders back on, the piston rings need to be set 120 degrees apart. There's no point doing it now because they'll just move, they just spin. But that will have to be done just before the cylinders are refitted. I've just fitted the top piston. Before I fit the bottom one, it'd be a good idea just to show the oil level. There's nothing overflowing out of the sump. It's been 5 days. I think the oil level might have increased a very small amount. It's just a fraction higher than it was 5 days ago. So yeah, it could be leaking from the tank into here. It could be the check valve. Or maybe the previous owner put extra oil in it. You can actually put oil in here. It's all made very tricky because I don't know the history of the machine at all. If it's been standing for 2 years, for example, without running, and it does have a slow leak, and that crankcase is filling up, then yeah, most likely a faulty check valve. But since I don't know when it last ran, it does make it very tricky. Yeah, it's getting close to breaching the hole there. So since it is so difficult to actually diagnose this, since it could be a number of different things, as simple as somebody just putting too much oil in through here, not in the tank at the back, yeah, I think the best thing to do is just to reassemble it, use it, and then let it stand again, but keep checking the oil level in the tank on the back and see if it decreases. If it's decreasing, then obviously it's leaking into the crankcase. Well, there we go, I've installed both the pistons. I've also set the ring spacing, so they're all 120 degrees apart. The next job is to fit the cylinder, which I have very lightly honed. As you saw before, it was already in really good condition. So it should just be a case of getting it fitted and then putting the head on. And there we go, we've got both the cylinders on. You can still see the lubrication which is in there.
That was just to assist with the fitting of the piston rings and also for a bit of lubrication when the engine first starts up, which it hopefully will do. But next we have the cylinder heads.
Right, okay, so a bit of a progress update for you here. As you've just seen, I torqued the head nuts and also I have set the valve clearances. So that's all good, all working as it should do. I've also put the intake back on and the exhaust, but I am waiting for a new starter motor. And yeah, I've just cleaned everything up. It's all looking good. So I'm really hoping that just with a new starter motor and solenoid, it is going to work. I have tried to turn the engine over by hand and that's working absolutely fine. The other thing which I was thinking about is with the oil in the crankcase, there is a scavenge pump which takes the oil out of the sump, because it's a dry sump, and puts it in the tank on the back. If that isn't working efficiently, then maybe it's filling up because of that reason. I just don't know. All these things are going to have to be checked. I can also check the oil pressure once the engine is running. But since the starter motor is probably 5 days away still, I think best thing to do is to get this video out so you can actually see what's been going on. Bit of a progress update. And then obviously Christmas is coming up soon. I don't know when I'm going to get the next video out, but if it does start and run, I should have a video probably just before Christmas or just after, as if everything goes smoothly. Anyway, yeah, I'm just going to leave it there. Thank you so much for watching as usual, and until next time, see you again soon.